This is Chris Morrow at Comic-Con at Home, and my home is in San Diego in my backyard, and I'm speaking with Comic-Con's David Glanzer. Hi, David. Are you still in sunny San Diego?
I am, in fact. This is my office, but I'm not in my office. I'm at home, so I'm kind of cheating. It's just a picture, but still here.
That's cool. What kind of pictures do you have behind you on your
So I'm a
wall?
huge Star Wars fan, and right there is the teaser Star Wars poster that came out, I think, in January or February of '77. The movie was supposed to release, or the movie released in May. And the interesting thing is, it's hard to tell, but right there, the logo is different. It's actually got a pointed W logo. Shortly after this was made, they decided to flatten the W, so this is kind of a unique poster. And then there are storyboards around it, and there's a stormtrooper, sand trooper right over there. So a lot of different Star Wars stuff, and I have a Yoda mug, and what else have I got back there? Some of our some of the awards that Comic-Con gives out. The Icon, the Eisner, I'm sorry, the Inkpot, the Eisner, a Film Award, Icon Award. So it's a bunch of stuff that I miss not seeing.
It looks really cool and clean.
This was taken that way. My office is typically a mess.
Just like mine. So those of you who don't know, Comic-Con is a nonprofit. Can you talk about that and why it was created?
Yeah, well, Comic-Con started in 1970 really as a gathering of people who wanted to highlight areas of entertainment that they felt had artistic merit. I mean, you think back in the day, it's kind of hard to imagine, but you know, movies were something that you went to the movie theater, and when it was over, that was it. If you wanted to catch a film, an old movie, you had to wait for the late show on television, or there were revival houses. Some cities still have them. Um, Back in the day, comic books, pretty much the same way. You read comic books, they were entertainment. After you were done with them, you threw them away. And science fiction and fantasy literature, the same thing. They were considered kind of an interest, a fringe interest of people. What we thought of when the organizers started Comic-Con was that these forms of entertainment were great entertainment, but they also had artistic merit. So they looked at comic books not just for the entertainment value, but for the art, the artists who created them, the artistic styles, the periods of time that they reflected. Same thing is true of film. We treated film as art. We would have 24-hour film rooms where we would show not only current films, but silent movies, film noir, and science fiction literature. Of course, you know, we had a lot of people who were authors, famous authors who wrote some great science fiction, Ray Bradbury among them. And it's great to know that, you know, 50 years later, Congress, I think in the late 80s, early 90s, established the Congressional Film Registry. And every year they put some films into this registry that they consider of having, you know, artistic merit. Comic books, we know, are as popular as ever now. People collect comic books, they look at the artists. And the same thing is true for fantasy literature and science fiction. I mean, some of the most popular books now are those books that have a fantastical or science fiction element to it. So as Comic-Con started progressing, nobody ever did this as a way to make money. It really was to celebrate these areas of popular art. So the decision was made a couple of years after starting the organization, when it was clear that it was becoming popular, to make it a nonprofit. And we've been a nonprofit ever since then. And I think that was either in 74 or 75. We've been a nonprofit ever since. Well, yeah, it's interesting. Star Wars came out in 1977, and Lucasfilm had sent Charlie Lippincott, who just recently passed away. He was a publicist for Lucasfilm, to basically talk about Star Wars the first year before it came out. I like to say that Lucasfilm kind of started viral marketing before that was even a term. But they were very aware of fandom. And this was back at a time when we didn't use the internet. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have, DVDs or streaming or even VHS. It was a way that people communicated either via telephone, gatherings like Comic-Con, or letters. And yet Lucasfilm decided that it would be a good idea to come to Comic-Con and talk about this film. And they had a captive audience who, just like today, were very knowledgeable about this film because they were always in tune to new things that are happening on the horizon.
And now we have all the big players and also the little players and people just starting out that go to Comic-Con because it's super influential.
It is. I think it's interesting. I think the nobody ever expected Comic-Con to be the size that it is, both in terms of attendance and scope. It was a way to acknowledge some artistic endeavors that really weren't getting the recognition we really felt they deserved. Well, along with that comes new things, whether it's interactive multimedia, computer generated stuff, animation, anime, manga, different things from, different corners of the world. And that grew in popularity. The attendance grew, the scope grew, we grew. And so that allowed us to have, even more programs and panels. And you're right. I mean, whether it's a budding artist who has their portfolio reviewed by movers and shakers within the industry, or whether it's major studio or publishing talents who come and give seminars and panel discussions on their work, there is something for everybody at every level of the artistic, landscape, if you will.
And then being so influential, you had unique problems like growing out of your space and growing into an entire downtown city.
Yeah, it was, again, it kind of caught us by surprise. We started in the basement of the U.S. Grand Hotel, which is right in downtown. And we moved from there to the El Cortez Hotel, which is a condominium complex now, but at the time was a hotel that had some convention ballrooms and things of that nature. As we continued to grow in popularity, we moved to what was called the Convention and Performing Arts Center. And at the time, that was really San Diego's convention center. I think one year we even moved up to UCSD campus. But then we kept outgrowing space. So when the city was growing there, decided to build the current convention center, we were there. We were, I think, one of the first conventions to occupy that. And while we thought that it would take us many years to fill that facility, in reality, we filled it very quickly. And not because of us, but because it was such a popular facility, and San Diego was such a great destination. The city planners decided to expand the convention center, which they did. And again, we found ourselves in a situation where we thought, well, this is more room than we'll ever need. Sadly, that's not the case, and we went ahead and outgrew that as well. So yes, you will see there are companies on the floor who would love to be able to expand. There just isn't the space for it. So there's activations outside. We use meeting rooms and ballrooms in local hotels. We use the downtown San Diego library. So it really has become kind of a citywide event.
And then it became San Diego's largest convention, filling up every single hotel in the entire county and probably even further, every single Airbnb, every single square inch. Even people in their cars were dressed up, selling something or showing off something for Comic-Con.
I remember many years ago when we got a call from, I'm not sure if it was Caltrans or the Highway Patrol or who, but there was a very long line of cars that snaked up the 5. And when they were trying to figure out what is going on, that it's kind of creating this backlog, people were going to Comic-Con. So now you see we'll have a lot of, working with Caltrans, the local police and other city officials, trying to let people know where to park, where not to park, with a lot of signage that we have to do. It is an event that is the largest convention in the convention facility. We do use, I think, at least 60 or 60 plus official hotels. There are a lot of hotels that also, I think, benefit, a lot of restaurants, both right within the downtown area, but even further along. I know last year we were very surprised and pleased to receive a proclamation from the mayor of National City, which is a border city to San Diego. And the reason they gave us a proclamation was because they felt that Comic-Con was a benefit to their city as well. So while Comic-Con pours a lot of revenue into the city coffers, other communities benefit as well, whether that's people who live in other cities and work at the convention center, people who stay in hotels or frequent restaurants in those other communities. It really has become a very county-wide event.
And then this year you have such a unique opportunity for people that have never ever been to Comic-Con. They could go for free. They don't have to wait in line for any tickets. They don't have to wait for the mother to say you can go, and they don't have to wait for a hotel room.
Yeah, one of we were confronted, as were so many different companies and organizations, with the COVID-19 pandemic, and we'd really hoped we'd be able to have a in-person show, but that just wasn't to be. So we ended up making the decision to try to create an online version of the event, and we decided that it would be a non-revenue, so basically a free event. We were lucky that there were some sponsors who participated, and we're very grateful for them, because having to, basically not run our two shows, Comic-Con and WonderCon, means that, it's going to be very tough for us moving forward in terms of finances. But we did the online version, Comic-Con at Home. I think it was a lot of fun. I think people had a good time. And we look forward to, seeing how we can make 2021 an even more exciting year.
Well, was it successful? Is there a way to measure success for Comic-Con at Home?
Well, I think it was successful for us, and by that I mean it was successful in the terms that people seemed to really have a good time. We got a lot of email, we got a lot of messaging on social media that people were grateful that we were doing this. We really didn't want. Comic-Con, as much as it is about art and artistic endeavors, it's also about community. It's a safe haven for people to share their common interests or discover new ones. And it really seems sad that by not having Comic-Con, we would miss that opportunity to interact with our fan base and introduce new people. So the decision was to try to open this up. And, it looks like, I think we had in excess of 300,000 people chime in just during the 4.5 days of the event. Some panels had, over 200,000 views. So yeah, I think it was a success. And some of those panels continue to stay up. I know we've had the merchandise has been up also on the exhibit floor. So I haven't looked the numbers outside of that, but I assume they've gone up. But yeah, I think we're very happy with it. And I think the fans were as well.
Well, you had an overwhelming amount of social media of people just exploding with happiness that the panels were there, as well as a shrine in the gas lamp trolley area for the San Diego residents.
Yeah, that was really a unique thing. When I mentioned earlier, when Comic-Con first started out, it really was an environment where people, spread things by word of mouth. And it was either by telephone, letter, or, these public gatherings. You move, fast forward to 50 years and, information is instantaneous on social media, email, and things of that nature. And, but it's interesting because even though we could meet online, even though we could share the experiences virtually and via the internet, there was a desire by some to have a physical location. And so there was we were surprised to learn of the Comic-Con shrine, and a lot of people I think, hopefully practicing safe distancing would come in costume and go down to the convention center, which I have to tell you, I drove by one afternoon. It was very, very unique to see downtown in July during Comic-Con being as quiet as it was.
I know that the Comic-Con blood drive has been in existence for 20 years, maybe longer than that. Why was the blood? Why is the blood drive the charity for Comic-Con?
Well, it's interesting. One of the many years ago, one of the guests we invited was a Robert Heinlein, a science fiction author, and it was my understanding that he had had a health issue and it required blood transfusion, and so he asked people that he would sign autographs. I think he would sign autographs if they agreed to donate blood because he thought it was a worthy cause. And my understanding is when we invited him, we said, hey, as an incentive, we'll hold a blood drive, to which he, said, sure. And it just kind of stuck. And it's a good cause. It's amazing. And Comic-Con ends up being, for the city of San Diego, one of the, if not the largest gathering of blood for the community. So that's a great thing. The San Diego Blood Bank gave us an award a couple of years ago, a national award. So the roots were clearly in fandom and science fiction and all that. The benefits, though, are for everybody who's a fan and who isn't, and that's certainly important. Again, it's community.
So when are the tickets going on sale for 2021?
Well, I don't know that there will be. If you'll recall, we went ahead and gave people the option of transferring their 2020 tickets to 2021, or I think we gave them until July 1st to ask for a refund. We were grateful that a lot of people decided to transfer their tickets and not have a refund. So I really don't know. I think we're still discussing that, but I think that we already probably have a pretty full convention, just with the people who weren't able to attend physically last year or this year. But we'll see what happens as we move along. And also, I have to be honest, here it is, late summer, and we still don't know the full extent of COVID. We don't know about public gatherings. There's kind of been a little bit of a nationwide, a little bit of a yo-yo effect of some places opening, some places closing. I know that San Diego had opened up for a while, then kind of locked down again, and my understanding is we're doing fairly well. So we'll have to wait and see. I think that we'll probably have a better idea, I assume, probably after the new year, of how things will pan out.
If Comic-Con isn't allowed to have the social gathering, in years past, are you going to do the same model as we did for the 2020?
That's a great question. We really don't know. Right now we're going through what worked, what needs some help. As other organizations and conventions start moving to an online, iteration, I think we're taking cues from them. I know that people have taken cues from us, and that's great. I mean, if we can all build a better mousetrap, then that's really good. One thing that concerns me just personally is revenue. I mean, we were lucky again to have some key sponsors this past year for our online version, but our revenue was, whenever you see the banners and the building wraps and all that, we get a percentage of that. So, the revenue was certainly down a lot. I don't know what it'll be like next year if we have to go through something like that again. So the long answer, I'm sorry, is I'm not really sure. I'm sure we'll have an online component. What that will be and how it will be, I'm not exactly sure.
One more helicopter. Sorry.
No, it's quite all right. San Diego is a Navy town. I remember when we first moved to San Diego back in 1968, I was a little kid, and I think, the one big thing that was kind of ingrained in us is that, we were a Navy town. We had Miramar, we had 32nd Street and North Island, and while tourism I think is a huge component of San Diego, the military aspect is something that I think we're both proud of, and still exists to this day. So if there's a helicopter or a jet flying by, that's okay. San Diego's accepted us, we accept them too, right?
That's true. I'm always so happy to go up the Pacific, see the Pacific Fleet when you take the boats over there. It's just so pretty.
Yeah,
it really is.
It is, and we have Fleet Week here too. Once, and I'm a big, huge movie fan, and I worked in film production for a while, and I worked on a movie in San Diego that took me on an aircraft carrier out to the Pacific Ocean, and it was a remarkable time, and seeing all these really kids that did these amazing jobs. But one of the most beautiful aspects was when we returned back into the city, and I think it must have been this summer, because the personnel were dressed in their navy whites, and they basically lined the outside of the aircraft carrier as they sailed in. I'm getting goosebumps now. Just incredibly beautiful. Just incredibly beautiful.
I see that all the time when they come in, and we all go out and greet them with our boats. It's a nice tradition. It does feel good to see that. So let's talk about the SD partnership, the San Diego partnership. I'm always so surprised during Comic-Con how clean everything is in the streets. And I found out a little secret.
And what is that secret?
I think it's the San Diego partnership. They pitch in a big way, right?
Oh yeah. In fact, I believe they pick up more trash during Comic-Con than any other time. It's interesting. I think a lot of people don't realize that what it takes to plan any event. And it should be that way. Nobody wants to see, what do they say? Nobody wants to see how the sausage is made. Nobody wants to, when I go to a restaurant, I know my dad was a cook. I know there's cooks. I know there's chefs. I know they create this great food. But oftentimes, especially me who love to eat, I just worry about what's in front of me and how delicious and beautiful it is. But it does take planning, it does take coordination, and San Diego Partnership really is instrumental in making all of this stuff happen, not just for Comic-Con, but throughout the year. And we have meetings with city officials and stakeholders prior to Comic-Con about logistics. There's street, they don't call them street clothes, they call them limited access. And there's a ton of restaurants downtown, and a lot of those restaurants can't have their provisions delivered during the day as they normally would during Comic-Con, because there's just so many people downtown. So there are periods of time when they can do that. The trash pickup, the emptying of the trash, the pickup of flyers and stuff on the floor, that's an endeavor that, something that is just a monumental achievement that they do. And that's why, we always try to discourage people from handing out material like cards and one sheets and stuff like that, because sadly, oftentimes they do end up on the floor, and that just creates more work for them.
Thank you, David. I appreciate your time. This is Chris Morrow, Comic-Con at Home, and we'll see you next year.
Always my pleasure. Bye-bye.
San Diego!